If you want to live in LA where it costs $865,000 a month to live, like, come with a trust fund or be ready to hustle. That's it.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, epic creatures of the world, wherever you are listening to this, and thank you for tuning in. This week's guest is the wonderful Jessica Childress. She's a musician, an artist of all sorts, creative, has a crazy backstory, which I'm excited for her to tell you about. Jessica has incredible energy that is completely infectious. She brings out the fun in people. I talk about the idea a lot about funfillment, the concept of being fulfilled in life and having fun, not taking life too seriously, being sure to bring the energy, do what you want to do, pursue your passions. She defines all that. We get into some real life stuff, which is super inspiring. So I'm excited for you to be here, and let's go. Yay! Jessica, welcome. What is up?
Hello. It's so good to see your face.
So
Thank
good to
you
see
for
your
having
face.
me.
Can you say that hello again? I really like that.
Hello. I'm so obnoxious. Jesus.
You're not obnoxious, but for anyone listening, this will be on YouTube after you listen to it on iTunes. So go watch it because Jessica's smile and energy is just infectious.
I'm a jolly girl. What can I say?
You are. So for everybody listening, tell them the story. Where are you from? Give them like the real deal story. Like, where are you from? Explain. I don't know what I'm asking.
Do you want all of the things? Like all of the things?
How about this? Give them your life story starting at the beginning and tell them whatever you care to share. And if you get too detailed, I'll cut you off. Beautiful.
I love that. Okay. So I'm from the LA area. I grew up in a little bit of a cult. No big deal. I was not at all exposed to music growing up. It was, just hymns and like church and the Bible. And then graduated from high school, the church high school, went to college in Malibu at Pepperdine, which, my God, was culture shock from like my small little world. And I never considered music as an option. So I got a job working in PR, in government affairs, doing things that, looking back, like I could have made different choices. You know what I'm saying? It was a lot of grassroots organization, we'll say. And I did that for a long time, like a decade. And I got to a point where I could not make myself do it. Okay, like, I don't know if you know this, but there was a time where I would roll into work, I'm not kidding, at like 11 a.m. My boss would text me, he's like, "You coming into work today?" My response was, TBD. Like, that's how much I was over it. And then I would leave at 4 and be like, I'm good. I was really asking to be fired and he just wouldn't fire me. So finally, in true Jessica fashion, I got to a point where I was like, I cannot do this one more day. Like, working my 3.5 Q hours a day at work is like pushing me over the edge. So I quit on a Tuesday with no plan for what I was going to do with my life. And I decided that I was going to do music, which, spoiler alert, is not a thing. Like, a plan is pretty critical to like doing music unless you want to live in your car. Which I did not, because it was a Corolla. That's not enough space. But so I quit my job. I got married. Quit my job. I don't know. It's one of the two. And on my honeymoon, I got an email from a producer on The Voice that said, we came across you. And I don't know how. To this day, I don't know how that connection got made because I didn't audition. But they asked me to come in and perform for the producers, and I met them. I had no idea what I was doing. Like, I didn't ask anybody, like, hey, what's a good idea? Like, how do I I've never auditioned for anything in my life. So I came in and I sang an original song, which is a huge no-no. Like, they can't use that. They can't send it around. They didn't have like the release forms. but I sang an original song and I ended up being cast on The Voice. And I thought, okay, well, I guess music is the thing. I guess this is what we do now. And that's what I've been doing ever since.
That's incredible. Congrats on your path and pursuing your passion. However, you really glossed over the whole cult thing. And I'm sure anybody listening is going to be like, wait, she started out saying she was in a cult and she quickly went from the cult to
Casual.
Pepperdine. So
Yeah.
why don't we back up and then let's take it back to the cult part.
Yeah, so there is a sect of Christianity called Independent Fundamentalist Baptist. And obviously anything with the word fundamentalist is like hard cancel. Um my parents joined the church back when it was like 12 people. My mom is from Guyana. My father is from Philadelphia, and I don't think they were particularly religious. But I think when you have kids, I think it kind of like puts the fear of God into you. Like, are we going to screw them up really bad? Let's put them in church, give them to Jesus, and that will help us. Um, so my dad worked for NASA, and we moved to the Lancaster Palmdale area when I was really young, and that's where this church was located. So I don't know, whoever's not familiar with Southern California, Lancaster Palmdale is like 90 minutes outside of LA proper. And it's, especially in the early 90s, it was a dust bowl. There was nothing, but a lot of meth labs, if I'm being perfectly honest. So it created an environment where my parents were kind of isolated. They were looking for community. They found this very small church, and it had like traditional values. Mm-hmm. And as it grew, it became more and more authoritarian. As I got older, I realized that it was very racist and very problematic, rife with scandal. It was a very toxic place. And I was there every day. It was my only education, my only schooling. It was all I knew. Like I think I bought my first CD when I was 16. I bought my first pair of pants because pants were like not allowed for girls to wear. The summer before I went to college, I had like, there are so many pop culture like seminal things that I've discovered in my late 20s that I'm still discovering, albums that I've never heard. You know, I I just got into the Beatles like 5 minutes ago because it was just stuff I wasn't exposed to. And thank God you know, I always say like nobody joins a cult. You join an organization, you join a movement, you join a church. And then once your heart is in it and it grows outside of this thing that's manageable for you, you're so invested. Like our whole lives were wrapped. My mom worked there. My dad was on staff there. It was my school. It was my friends. I'd never known anyone outside. So when we discovered how sort of toxic it was very difficult to decide to leave because they tell you if you leave, you will ruin your life. Your kids will end up on the pole. Like it's the whole thing. So for us to have gotten out, for me to be thriving was not expected and certainly not encouraged. My last EP, I wrote a song called Cross of Mine about this. And I was very nervous to release it. But in the last, I would say 6-9 months, people that I grew up with, adults that were like really horrible to me who have since left, have sent me private messages, saying, sorry, we were so racist and terrible. We didn't know we were in a cult, or, your congratulations on escaping this. But it was a really intense situation.
Wow. Yeah. So what was the thing that set off your parents and you realizing that you had to get out? If that's not too personal.
There's nothing too personal. It is personal, but it's not too personal. So I started dating this boy in high school who was a pastor's son. And this is when the racism became like overt. Um, he was white, and the administration of the school literally took me aside and said that this was against the rules and that we should break up because it's against God and it against the school rules, and that they would expel me. And they had a term for it. They called it exotic dating. And they'd always been very othering. It was me and one other Black person that I even grew up with, that I even knew. So it wasn't like this was a Black church. This was a very white church. And, I came into it when I was 2. So my whole concept of race was colored by this racism. But when they said to me, this is against God and the Bible and this is bad, and I was 16, like I knew that was wrong. I knew that exotic dating, to even give it a term, tell me that I was doing something wrong, that was like when the veil fell. And so many little things like that had happened that I never brought to my parents because I thought that I was in the wrong. So then when that happened, I brought it to my mom and she was like, has anything ever happened like this? And I'm like, well, there was this one time when they tried to paint my face white. There was this other time, like all these crazy things started, like that was the thing that tipped the dominoes when I realized there were so many experiences that were so wrong that I didn't even view as such. And so the plan was like get my high school diploma, take my SATs and ACTs, and get out. And it was a fight until I got the piece of paper in hand.
Wow. It's incredible that you got, I mean, it's incredible that you got out, and it's inspiring that you've persevered the way you have, and that you had the confidence to go to your parents.
Wild.
My gosh. I mean, hearing that's insane. So you had given me you started with the cult, you went to The Voice, getting married, leaving your job. There's so much you covered there. So it's funny because I'm sure we're going to skip all over the place chronologically here. But let's jump with respect to that last story, which was so incredible and empowering to hear that you did that. Obviously, as an artist, you've talked about this in the song that you mentioned. How has this shaped who you are as a person and as an artist?
You know what's wild? As the more I dig into being a songwriter, and the more, because to me, and I've heard other artists describe it like this, but the more inner work you do, the deeper you go, the better songwriter you are. So I'm really digging deep into how those experiences shaped me. And for such a long time, I never wanted to identify with that part of my life because I felt like once I left Lancaster, once I left the church and moved on, like it was before that and after that, and that's it. And now I really see how there was such a through line for me of perseverance, and for me to have remained myself in any way is such a win. For me to have held on to my identity is a win. And I think that is the through line, because I mean, listen, my experience of college, like you may be able to tell, but I am not the one that's like, let's study all the time and like be really responsible. I allowed myself to experience life, because there was so much control. And I think my college experience was less about learning stuff and more about, okay, this is actually what the world is. And then I chose a job, a profession where, yes, I was dealing with a lot of politics and a lot of campaigns and initiatives and stuff, but it was also a place where I could control the narrative. And I think that has been really critical to me holding on to some semblance of like agency as I grow and become, who I am now.
So you are doing so many things right now, and I'm a big fan of your music. But did you have any musical training before The Voice?
Yes. Okay, so went to the cult or grew up in the cult, didn't have like the most amazing resume to take to a university. So I decided that I would try to get a music scholarship. And the only program that Pepperdine had was classical music. So I was like, I'm just going to pretend to be an opera singer for 4 years so that they'll pay for some of my college so I can afford to be here. So I had and I was the worst. To be an opera singer, you have to be so disciplined. Like, you got to get a lot of sleep. You can't be drinking. I was smoking cigarettes and like staying up all hours of night. And also, there's not a lot of room for like expression. So I was singing, I was singing these like arias like an R&B singer. And all of my teachers were like, ma'am, this isn't going to work. So yeah, I did. I had that training. And then I learned piano in high school. I had one of my safest places in that cult was my piano teacher, Mrs. McGarry. And the church had like a pretty strict curriculum that they wanted the piano teachers to stick to. And she was like, we're not going to do that. We're just going to do like, you want to write songs? I'll help you write songs. So I had these little helpers along the way.
So the only part of that was confusing is that your college music teacher or somebody was calling you ma'am. Was that the chosen term?
I mean, I don't think she would ever call me ma'am. But she was like, Miss Childress. It was probably a Miss Childress. Like, this is not an appropriate expression of this song.
Have you ever thought about reinventing your artist name, like to just Miss Childress instead of like, like an artist formerly known as Prince, Miss Childress?
Yo, that sounds, first of all, that's like a bad bitch name. So
that's what
like,
I'm saying.
Not a Miss Childress. That's definitely going to be an album. Like when I really start feeling myself and owning my power, like that's going to be the album. And that's when you'll know I've snapped.
I think you already should be feeling yourself like Mac Dre. Do you know who Mac Dre is?
No.
Oh, see, for anybody listening, clearly Jessica has lived a little bit of a sheltered existence, as she alluded to. And Mac Dre is an iconic hip hop artist who's no longer with us. Do we want to get into this? This is not going to make you look good, so we're gonna probably have to cut this.
Bro, there's so much that I don't know. I used to have so much shame around the people that I didn't know. I don't anymore. Like it's exciting for me to like learn, experience things for the first time. Yeah, I don't have any shame around it. I look good.
I know you do, and I agree. Here's the funny thing. Jessica has clearly eclectic music taste, as she just discovered the Beatles, but she was touring with and working with Alan Stone, right?
Yeah.
So give us a little sense of what music inspires you and what you like, because it seems to be all across the board, which is great.
Yeah.
But tell me a little bit more.
So I am inspired by, it's not genre. I'm inspired by music that makes me feel something. So that could be anything. Alan Stone has always been such a huge inspiration for me because his voice is so unique. His look is so unique. He's so open when he performs. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen him live, but it's like going to church. He's so available and it's so nourishing. And that's what inspires me. It's not necessarily who can write. I mean, there are some songwriters that I'm just like, I worship at your throne. But for me, it's like, I'm so attracted to the energy exchange in music, and that's what's the most inspiring. So my producer and he made me a playlist of music he thought I would like, and he included some metal, and turns out I'm really into that because it's so visceral and raw, and I love that. So,
wow.
Mm-hmm. Eclectic, Andrew. Eclectic.
Morning becomes eclectic. KCRW.
Personified.
100%. So what sort of, how hard is the metal that we're talking about here?
Okay, I've really like sort of sampled the gamut, but I started listening to music from like the music that I would have listened to had I been out of the cult. So I really got into Corn. Do you know that?
You're not going to get anything by me. I do, but my facial expression is that of surprise. But continue.
Yeah, super dope. Metallica, Godsmack, System of a Down. Like I'm all over the place, dude.
Wow. So how about hip hop inspirations so we can get more into my domain?
You're the hip hop guy?
I'm 80s. I'm hip hop. Let's say this. Hip hop would definitely be number one for me. But again, I don't know how to answer it because I like I love your music. This is going to be the weirdest sort of sidetrack ever, but Far Away is one of the best songs, and our kids have pretty much memorized it. We listen to it in the car and they request it.
Oh my God.
So good.
That's such an interesting one. I have such a strange relationship with that song.
Why?
So the original version of this song, I was working with a different producer. His name is Tony Perry, Joe Perry's kid. We had gone into the studio and I was like, I have this song, and he made this like Caribbean vibe, and I was obsessed with that production. And my manager was like, I don't know, it doesn't really fit. So we ended up like completely reproducing it. And I don't know if there's something like analogous in your world, but when you fall in love with an iteration of a song one way, but then like need to change it for whatever, it's like, yeah, that one's okay, but you should hear the real one. So I love Far Away, but like the original Far Away is like fuego.
Can we do a shared ingredients drop where like we do a Caribbean remix? Come on, like what can we do?
You know what?
Drop the original.
That's not a bad idea, my friend.
Can that be like the intro music in this podcast or something?
We'll see. We'll talk to the powers that be and see if we can get all the people to sign off. That would be so sick.
Do you have to get the rights? So you don't have the. Let's talk about music rights. That's a thing that we should not go deep on. But wait, tell me what the powers that be. What? Like you can't get the master to this?
I don't have the master to this.
Gotcha.
I don't think I own the master to this. This was my first. So this was the time when I was like, I'm gonna do music, and I had no idea what I was doing and no plan. So I was going into these writing sessions just like, let's create stuff, like let's keep it real loosey-goosey. And I myself had no concept of who owns what, who gets paid what are splits. And there's a lot of loose music running around out there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sketchy.
Yeah.
So how much of your music do you own right now?
With the exception of like 2 or 3 songs that are loose, 100%.
Good. That's all I wanted to hear.
Yeah. I definitely went back. I had to go back, and anything that I've released, I own all of. You know, obviously co-writers and things like that, but I own the masters.
Cool. So what are you doing now? You're juggling a lot, but you seem very proud of the juggle and the hustle.
I am. You know, I used to have such an ego. You don't even know. I used to have such an ego around being a solo artist. Like I wanted that process to be so pure. I wanted to live out this dream I had in my mind of like what being an artist looked like. And I wasn't making any money. I was super stressed out because doing it that way, you put so much stress on every release. So it takes you out of like the heart space and makes it all business. So I recognize like, okay, yes, I'm an artist and that is important to me, but I also have other skills. I'm also a really good songwriter, and I'm also, a great singer. So I thought like I have my artist thing, but let me try to expand those skills into other forums. So I started writing for sync, for film and TV, songs that I wouldn't necessarily release as like just they're not like the deep musings of my heart, but they're good, fun songs. I started writing a lot for that. I started collaborating with more people. Um, I really put a lot of time and work into developing myself as a session singer so that I could, be on these big film scores, be on these TV shows, so I could be in the union where, I can create a body of work and residuals and mailbox money. And that pays for studio time. That pays for me to take a month off and hole up in a studio and write an album. Um, and I also started composing for TV shows. So now I'm a composer on a show called Central Park that's on Apple TV. Started working with the Bob's Burgers crew, which is something I never imagined that I would do, character singing and stuff like that. So not only have I not put so much pressure on my solo career and my art, the thing that like fuels my spirit, I can just do whatever I want. And whether or not it's successful or not, like I'm good. I've also discovered all these other ways to make music that are fun and life-giving and have expanded my horizons.
So I love your answer there. What is your advice to someone who wants to pursue a dream or a craft, given what you just said, between going all in and knowing that they might not make money, but that they need to go all in on that craft and not be distracted by other things, versus finding what sounds to be the beautiful balance? I don't mean to be answering the question as I ask it, but I seem to hear very different advice from different people on this topic.
Yeah.
What's your thought there?
I was definitely in the all-in camp for a long time. And I think that there is value to that no distraction life. But I'll tell you what was the biggest distraction was poverty. Poverty is a huge distraction. And scarcity mentality is a huge distraction. So in my opinion, you can't make your best work if everything every song that if you can't write a good song or you can't write a bad song. If you feel like I can't write a bad song, I can't make mistakes because if this doesn't work, I don't have other options. Now, there was a time when I thought I can do music and anything else. And I was trying to also be a consultant in public affairs, with some of my old clients. And I realized that that's a distraction. So I guess the balance was finding money making opportunities that will simultaneously sharpen my skill set for the thing I want to do and also provide space for me to do that. So I did go all in, but I didn't go all in as a solo artist. I went all in on music. So I stopped consulting, all of my little like ancillary side hustles. I quit doing that and I decided like I want to sharpen my skill set as a songwriter. So me being able to write a silly, funny song for Central Park, that creativity also lends itself to me being able to go super deep and write a really emotive song. COVID was like the best, for me, one of the best opportunities for me to learn how to produce, for me to learn how to actually make my own music in Pro Tools. I never saw myself as a producer. But in order to make money, because I'm not playing shows, I'm not really selling merch at shows, I needed to be doing these sessions. I had to engineer my own sessions. Do you know about Pro Tools?
I know I don't want to learn about it.
It's literally it's so hard. It's like counterintuitive. It's like the most ungoogleable thing ever because you don't know what the problem is. It's just not working. I hate it so much. But I now have the ability to like engineer my own sessions. I can do a little production. So I say that to say like the balance is deciding, okay, this is the world I want to live in, but I need to make money here. That doesn't mean like, okay, I want to wait tables and work like a million hours a week doing that. And whatever energy I have left over, I'll spend on my art. It's like, okay, how do I use my art in a way that makes money? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Entirely.
Okay.
So as far as goal setting, that's another thing that I've talked about with people kind of by default. As you're on the path of sort of juggling all the things that are still under the umbrella of music, are you pacing toward a specific goal of either going back to being like the solo artist or having some sort of benchmark? Like, do you feel like it's important to have milestones that you're trying to achieve, or do you let it just not happen naturally?
That's such a good question. And I'll tell you why. Like, I'm going to be a little vulnerable. I have such a hard time being aspirational, and I think it has a lot to do with how I grew up, where my options were so limited. And my concept of what I can bring to the table was so limited. I have so like when I say I have crippling self-doubt, I have crippling self-doubt. And so it's something that I'm really working on because to be very honest with you, my having all of these other jobs, yes, it's very practical. And yes, I say that it's sharpening my skill set, but also it's, oh, here we go. It's like a shield. It's like a shield um, of safety so that I don't have unrealistic expectations of what I'm going to be able to do. So I've recently come to the understanding that that's a big part of it. And so I'm working with a coach that's helping me create some goals, some expectations of what my solo artistry is going to do. And it's been really uncomfortable and really difficult for me to even dream past what's immediately practical. But I do think it's important. And I think as I'm growing as an artist and really seeing that my music can be impactful, my voice can be impactful, realizing, yeah, okay, I do want to be a songwriter. I really do enjoy that. I think that's going to be a huge part of my life moving forward forever and ever. Amen. Some of the other things like touring with other artists, singing background vocals. Maybe that is not actually my path. Maybe that is me choosing to be in the background because I have a little bit of fear around being the main character. So that these are the questions that I'm kind of grappling with and getting really honest with myself about. Okay, there's the surface why, but let's dig a little deeper and get to the core. What is the fear? So, my friend, this is in progress.
Thank you for that really thoughtful answer and for sharing such detail and vulnerability. Can I speak? Vulnerability?
You're crushing.
Yes, thank you. Vulnerability. It's a hard word.
It is.
But I really like what you said there. There's not a one size fits all answer, and there's not a solution, because the reality is you're a dynamic person and you're contributing goodness and value and passion into so many of these things. And I'm sure in all of these different camps, you're very appreciated and seen as good at those things. My godfather, who passed away a couple of years ago, wrote this eulogy for another person who passed away a couple of years ago, who was really close to him and me. And it was this, I won't do it justice with a quote, but the eulogy was so beautiful because it was basically acknowledging this person who had been like he'd been mainly in government affairs in San Francisco, among other things. And his eulogy was all about how he could have basically been the best at a whole handful of things. And he thinks that that's true of pretty much anybody. He threw out the agenda that like we're all destined to do one thing really well. And his point was you can be so great at so many things, and it's really like the humanity in you and what you bring out.
I hear you. That resonates so deeply for me. I think a lot of creators in particular have this this idea that there is a path and there are wrong turns. And I just read this thing the other day about how life is like, your path is more like GPS, where you can take a million detours, but it's going to reroute you and you're going to get where you're going. And I'm realizing that in order for me to really, because my path is communication, my path is like creating space through my music and my words for growth and healing and blah, blah, blah. I know that. And that can happen in a myriad different ways. And I'm realizing that part of my work is to create such deep self-trust that I know that whatever choices I make, I'm gonna get there because my heart's in the right place. It's about impact and joy, honestly. But let me tell you something about performing. Performing gets to be like on its own thing. That is neither a job, that is neither a function of I guess it is a function of me being an artist, but that is like the ultimate for me. I love nothing more in the world than being on a stage and singing. It is my favorite place to be. And if I could do that 365 days, like if my physical body could sustain it and my heart and my mind, that's what I would do. But that's not how it works. But that is my most favorite, because I think, if you're talking about like impact and influence and joy, there's something so special about that energy exchange. When I get on stage and I open up my whole heart, and I think that that's felt. I hope that that's felt. My intention is that openness and availability is felt. And then, it's those people for that moment in time. Like, it's not like once it's done, it's done. We'll never have that moment again. And it's just, like me and the audience, we create something together. It's not just me. It's like the us of it. And that is the it factor to me. It's not like, okay, my band is dope. And my band is dope, by the way. I have the most incredible musicians that play with me. But I think the it factor is me really like connecting with those people, with the people in the audience, and us creating that magic together. Oh, I miss it so much.
That is so awesome. I love impact, influence, and joy. Impact, influence, and joy. Should that be the name of the podcast? Shared ingredients, impact, influence, and joy.
I mean, I don't hate it.
I like it. Wow. So what advice do you have for people who want to come to Los Angeles to pursue their dreams?
If you want to live in LA where it costs $865,000 a month to live, like, come with a trust fund or be ready to hustle. That's it.
This is so damn quotable.
I have 17 jobs. That is the fact. But
I like that.
The thing is, here's the deal. I used to have such an ego around having to hustle, but I figured out a way for all of the things that I'm hustling to be music related and to be shit that I love to do. So it's reality. I used to care about being exposed. Like, I wanted to control so much how people saw me, and I didn't, and I can't be bothered. I don't have time. And also my mantra for 2021 is allowing myself to be fully seen and fully expressed. And trusting that other people's experience of me is just theirs.
Other people's experience of me is just theirs.
Telling you, this coach, Meg Miller, she's changing the game.
How can people find her? Give her a shout out. We're going to shout you out.
Meg Miller at Novus Global. Find her. She is the real deal Holyfield, man.
You've already given some great advice to artists coming up. I've asked you this question a couple times, or different iterations of it. What advice do you have for someone pursuing their passions in general, if they feel like they're either stuck or they want to try something new in life? It doesn't have to be that they're stuck. What is your advice for someone who wants to pursue their passions if they don't feel like they're on the track that is taking them there?
Honestly, be brave. Because you only get one shot, right? Like this is the one time that we are on this physical plane in this iteration of ourselves. And I get that there's a lot of fear around change, and there's a lot of like self-doubt. Can I do this? But the stakes, I mean, and this is coming from someone with no children. Okay. So put this in that context. But I really do think the stakes are lower than people think they are. I think that there's this whole idea that if I do X and it's not wildly successful immediately, I will ruin my life and I will never be able to course correct. It's just not the case. People reinvent themselves all the time. People are way more resourceful than they give themselves credit for. And sometimes you don't know how resourceful you really are until you take a big leap. I'm not saying do what I did and just quit your job with no plan for like making money unless you're cool about living in the Corolla. But I should have eventually quit my job. I could have been saving for a couple of years. That would have been sick. But even using me as an example, I was broke for a couple of years, like broke. But I knew in my heart that I had something valuable to offer. And the universe is not punitive. The universe isn't out here like, see, you thought you were cute. Now I'm going to punish you with poverty and shame. That is stuff we put on ourselves. So if you can hijack that fear in your brain of like what the stakes are and really be honest about what the stakes really are and trust that you're more resourceful, like you can do anything, man.
If this microphone was not plugged in, I would just say that was the mic drop. That was that. I don't have anything to say other than that was awesome. And I completely agree.
Thank you. I received that.
That was perfect. And look at what a beautiful bookend that is. Thank you 1,000 times over.
Oh my gosh. Honestly, it's such a pleasure. And can I say something about you really quickly?
Thank you.
You're such an encourager. You're so great at holding space and being present. You ask beautiful questions. I really appreciate what you're doing and the kind of impact that you're intentionally making in the world. It's meaningful to me. And I'm really grateful that you asked me to be on this podcast.
Thank you. I'm so grateful you were here, and I hope everyone was excited. And, the first email must have just not gotten through because
I have 2 email addresses, and let me be honest, I don't check the one. And I need to because I opened it last night and I was like, okay, I am not being great.
Well, you hear that, everybody. Jessica was sincerely complimenting me. She wasn't saying that out of guilt because I asked her to be on this podcast 3 weeks prior and it was crickets. And then, she dropped her single and I thought it just might be serendipitous timing. So let's plug that right now. We're going to plug everything hard right now.
Let's go.
I know that Jessica's passionate about her writing job. So if any of her colleagues are listening right now, don't worry. You still got her for a little while until you don't. But listen, your music is fantastic. My children love it. My friends love it. I love it. And anybody who knows my music consumption knows that I will play a song till the death, meaning I will listen to it on repeat. And if you don't like it and you're near me, that's not fun. And so I apologize.
Like that.
Yes. But wow, am I ready for the world to open up so people can come see you live again.
Can't wait.
Her music runs the full gamut. I mean, the new song that she just dropped, Enemy, is not only a beautiful song, but it's a very powerful song, and it's about very real things as compared to some songs that are just super fun. And, you know, it's the full gamut. There's all of it. So check it out. And now I can keep plugging you, but I'd rather you tell people, where can they find you? What do you want them to know? Any closing thoughts? Have at it.
Definitely check me out wherever you like to stream your music. And do me a favor, just if you want to, listen to it, but like it and put it in a playlist, because that tells the algorithm that I'm cool. And I need the algorithm to know that I'm cool, because right now it's not sure. It's on the fence. You can find me at Instagram, Jessica Childress Music. That's where I hang out. Every now and again, I'll put up a really dumb TikTok. If you're into really stupid content, you can find me over there if that's your cup of tea. But yeah, I'm everywhere you want to be, guys. And I want to talk. Say hello. Shoot me a DM. I'll say hey.
And DMs seem to be more effective than whatever email you've linked to.
Oh, God.
So there's that. But honestly, I do want to go back to what you just said a second ago. Anybody listening, I always feel weird saying on this podcast, hey, if you're listening and you like this, leave a review, leave a comment. But it really does make a huge difference. And from seeing the gratitude that you felt from those comments, we've talked about this in the past, that never goes away. And it really does mean something. So take that to heart, what she just said. Go check out her stuff, but actually engage, like it, shout her out, go share it with people, put it in your playlist, do everything she just said. And then while you're at it, do it with shared ingredients too, because now
please.
I mean, come on, that's the whole premise of this podcast, shared ingredients. We're sharing ingredients with each other. I got the derivation of this name from the idea that when you go to a dinner at someone's grandmother's house and you have lasagna or something and you think it's good, you say, oh, can you share the ingredients? And it's the metaphoric ingredients for life, but we're in this together. And that's how beautiful things get done.
Community is everything. So grateful.
100%. Thank you so much, Jessica. Have a wonderful day.
You too.
And we will definitely see you soon.
See you soon. Bye.
All right. Thanks. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that episode. Jessica's incredible. Listen to her music, stream it, share it. Check out Jessica on her socials at Jessica Childress Music. If you like this, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts, comment, subscribe. Anything you can do helps a lot, and I appreciate it greatly. You can find me on social at Pelosi and the show at Shared Ingredients. I will see you again in a week. Yay!